Podcast. If you're digging these deep dives into all things health and wellness, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
And don't forget to tell your friends. We love to spread the knowledge.
Absolutely. Okay, so today we are tackling a subject that might be a little bit awkward for some, but it's really important and, let's be honest, kind of fascinating.
No doubt about it.
It's penile health.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of guys, it's kind of like a don't ask, don't tell situation.
It really is, and that's part of the problem, you know? Lack of open conversation can really lead to some misunderstandings and ultimately health issues that could have been avoided.
Exactly. So we found this source that's like a one-stop shop for everything you need to know to keep things, healthy down there.
And it's surprisingly comprehensive. It covers everything from the basics of anatomy and physiology to some really practical tips for maintaining optimal penile health.
It really does. And I think that's what makes it so valuable. It's not just about, treating problems after they arise. It's about taking a proactive approach and preventing them in the first place.
Prevention is always key.
Absolutely. So let's dive into some of the most interesting points from this source, shall we? The first thing that really jumped out at me was this emphasis on keeping it active. And I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think we all went there.
But it's not just about, sexual activity. It's about blood flow and overall function.
Right. And I think that's such a crucial point. You see, the penis is like any other part of your body. It needs oxygen and nutrients to stay healthy. And that means keeping the blood flowing.
So it's like exercise for your,
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Regular blood flow helps to maintain the elasticity of the tissues, and it can actually prevent a lot of problems down the road.
Like what kind of problems? I mean, I know erectile dysfunction's a big one, but are there others?
Oh, absolutely. Poor blood flow can contribute to things like Peyronie's disease, which is a curvature of the penis, and it can even make you more susceptible to infections.
Wow, I had no idea. So even if you're not necessarily thinking about, sex all the time, it's still important to keep things moving down there.
Exactly. And what's great about this source is that it acknowledges that sexual activity isn't always an option for everyone. Maybe you're in a relationship where you're not sexually active, or maybe you have a medical condition that makes it difficult.
Right. So what are some alternatives?
Well, the source actually talks about things like vacuum devices and even pelvic floor physiotherapy.
The floor physiotherapy.
Really?
Yep. Turns out those muscles play a big role in sexual function. And strengthening them can improve blood flow and sensation.
Huh. Learn something new every day. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Keep it active, even if it's not in the way you might initially think.
Love it.
Moving on, tip number 2 is all about hygiene.
Yeah, this one might seem basic, but you'd be surprised how many men don't have the best hygiene practices. I can imagine. So what does this source recommend?
Well, first and foremost, it emphasizes the importance of thoroughly cleaning the penis every day.
Okay, that seems straightforward enough.
Right. But it's not just about using soap and water. You really need to make sure you're getting under the foreskin if you have one. That's where a lot of bacteria can build up.
But what about drying?
Just as important. Moisture can create a breeding ground for bacteria, so make sure you thoroughly pat the area dry after washing.
Makes sense. Anything else?
The source also talks about the importance of washing after sex, and it actually dives into some of the science behind this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it turns out that the vagina and the penis have very different pH levels, and when these two environments mix, it can disrupt the balance of microorganisms. The ideal pH for the penis is slightly acidic, somewhere between 4.5 and 5.5. Maintaining this acidity helps to prevent the overgrowth of harmful bacteria. So cleaning after sex helps to restore that balance.
Fascinating. I never thought about the pH balance down there.
It's pretty amazing, right? And something as simple as washing can make a big difference.
So tip number 2. Hygiene matters more than you might think.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, moving on to tip number 3. And this one might be a little delicate, but the source is pretty adamant about it. It says to avoid having sex with only a partial erection.
Yeah, this one is definitely important. When you engage in intercourse with a less than full erection, it can put a lot of stress on the tissues.
Okay, but what's the actual harm?
Well, think of it this way. When the penis isn't fully erect, the tissues are more susceptible to micro traumas, like tiny little tears.
Ouch.
Right. And the problem is that over time, these micro traumas can lead to the formation of scar tissue. And that scar tissue can cause nodules to form, which can then lead to penile curvature, a condition known as Peyronie's disease.
So basically, it's like injuring yourself over and over again.
Exactly. So the takeaway here is if you're not fully aroused, it's best to wait until you are.
Got it. Full erection or no erection?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay. All right, moving on to tip number 4. And this one might be a little controversial, but the source brings up a really interesting point about pornography.
Yeah, this is something that's often overlooked, but it's so important to talk about.
So what's the deal with porn?
Well, the source explains that excessive pornography use can actually desensitize your sexual responses, making it harder to get aroused in real-life situations.
You know, I've heard this before, but I never really understood why. What's the science behind it?
It all comes down to how the brain processes pleasure and reward. When you're constantly exposed to highly stimulating content, your brain kind of gets used to that level of intensity. It's like building up a tolerance. And as a result, you might find it harder to get aroused by more subtle or nuanced stimuli like those you encounter in real-life relationships.
So it's like your brain needs more and more to achieve the same level of satisfaction.
Exactly. And that can really have a negative impact on your relationships and your overall sexual well-being.
Wow, that's pretty eye-opening. So it's not about demonizing porn. It's about being mindful of your consumption and making sure it's not interfering with your ability to connect with a partner.
I think that's a great way to put it.
All right, on to the final tip from this source. And this one really ties everything together. It's about the importance of overall health.
Yeah, this is where it all comes full circle.
What do you mean?
Your physical and mental health directly impact your sexual health. What you eat, how much you exercise your stress levels, whether you smoke or drink excessively, all of these things play a role.
So it's really about recognizing that sexual health isn't some isolated thing. It's a reflection of your overall well-being.
Precisely. For example, we know that a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains can improve blood flow and boost nitric oxide production, which is crucial for erectile function. On the other hand, a diet high in processed foods, saturated fats, and sugar can have the opposite effect.
And of course, exercise is essential, right?
Absolutely. Exercise is a natural mood booster and stress reducer, which are both important for sexual health. It also improves cardiovascular health, which is directly linked to erectile function. And even something as simple as getting enough sleep can make a huge difference in your hormone levels and libido.
It's amazing how interconnected everything is. And speaking of things that might surprise you, this source actually has a bonus tip about sleeping habits. It's just sleeping commando, or at least opting for loose-fitting underwear.
Yeah, you might laugh, but it actually makes a lot of sense.
How so?
Well, tight underwear can restrict blood flow, especially during those all-important nocturnal erections. It can also create friction and heat, which can lead to irritation and even microtraumas, potentially increasing the risk of things like Peyronie's disease. So, giving your equipment a little breathing room can go a long way.
Huh? Who knew? Okay, well, I think this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I know I learned a lot, and I hope our listeners did too.
Me too.
It's amazing how many factors play into maintaining a healthy and satisfying sex life. It's not just about one thing. It's about taking care of yourself as a whole, mind, body, and, well, everything in between. So I'd love to leave you with this question. Given this connection between overall health and sexual health, what's one small change you can make today to benefit both? It could be as simple as swapping those tighty-whities for some boxers or adding an extra serving of veggies to your dinner. Every little bit counts. And as always, thanks for tuning in to HealthyCast.
See you next time.